it's just incredible. I love it. I can't put words on how much I appreciate it. I appreciate you and all that you do for me, the movement, the team, the MEM. It still feels like it's just the beginning.
Oh, very much so for me. Well, thank you for the kind words, and I appreciate you too. It's interesting that a lot of people use our relationship as an example of how partnerships can work in business. And so our vision 6 years later, I can't believe it's been 6 years, it's just kind of hitting me. That's like, holy cow. Is now what we're looking at is really branching this off and offering this to more men, more families. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Today I thought we would talk about the question that we get the most. How did we meet and how did the Powerful Man start? Before we do this, we're actually celebrating. We came to the studio at the ranch. So if you don't know, we have a TPM ranch. It's about 106 acres where we do events. We do live events. And we've had men fly in here twice to actually help build out the ranch, to contribute to allowing men to have a place to come for growth, for healing, and eventually we'll be bringing their families. So we're celebrating the second and end of 10 days of being here on the ranch, getting things working, getting things going. And I want to give a shout out to Rich. Rich supplied us with the Still Branch old-fashioned cocktail mixer. Absolutely amazing. As well as some good bourbon. And so we're going to celebrate with this. But Tim, I thought I'd talk a little bit about, because we get asked this all the time, and maybe we could just have an official/unofficial recording of it, of kind of how we met and how the Powerful Man got started and where we see this going over the next year or so.
Yeah, just take a step backwards. If you were going to give the shout out to the Still Branch from Rich, just be careful. It's pretty potent. If you have too many, you may fall off the sofa. But
words of caution. Words of caution.
But yeah, I think we, like you said, we get asked it so many times, and I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah. So I feel almost robotic because I've said this story so many times in so many different ways. But Tim and I met online, and I always throw in the joke. We met on Grindr. But we met online, and it was actually, we had a lot of friends in common. So it was actually on Facebook where we started communicating. I was seeing your posts, you were seeing mine. You were doing some growth with a coach that you were working with at the time. My wife happened to be working with the same coach through a different program, but something similar. And we had a lot of friends in common. And I think I reached out to you because I really liked some of the content that you're posting. You were working a different program, so to speak, very similar, but different at the time. And yeah, so we started chatting on Facebook back and forth, and a little bit of jostling, as you would, because we didn't know each other for anything. And then we ended up getting on a video call. And your team at the time had a couple of different companies. You were running the Powerful Man. You founded the Powerful Man. And over time, we just started working together and became really good friends. We were talking, I think, this is probably, by the way, guys, this is probably almost 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It's over 7 years ago because my son wasn't born. And I was at a stage in my business career, my life, where I'd kind of been successful in my own mind, had made some money, and I was looking at what my next stage, my legacy stage, was going to be and where I wanted to go. And you were at a stage of your life where you were really enjoying helping people. You were helping men. You were serving men at a high level, and you were really looking to get the word out more, I would say, and really grow and expand upon that. And during that time, I found myself talking to this crazy English man, 1, 2, 3 times a week, and we ended up talking a lot.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was. I really valued those. I still value the conversations we have. And it was interesting because the Powerful Man was very early in its infancy, maybe going only a couple of years or so. Very, very young, very small. Experienced some relatively fast growth in the first kind of 6 months or so, purely organically, really. But I knew that in order for it, and for me, quite honestly, to create the impact in the world that I wanted to have and that I knew the Powerful Man could have, I couldn't do it on my own. And one thing led to another. Like you said, you and I met, and I was wise enough and foolish enough to just approach you Eventually, after about a year or so, we've been working together, right? You obviously had the marketing agency back then. You were helping TPM improve its marketing so it could reach more men. And it got to a point where I approached you and I said, hey, what would it look like for you to come on board and help us create the impact in the world that we know we want to create? And to your delusion, you and dismay, you entertained the conversation and
Never said I was a smart man.
But yeah, I knew I couldn't do it on my own. I knew I couldn't. I remember having conversations with Amelia and just accepting my weaknesses, my strengths, and realizing and recognizing, like I said, putting ego aside. Because you're a lot of people that I've seen a lot of people who are in a similar position and they let their ego come in and they won't allow themselves to admit, hang on a minute, I'm okay over here, I'm weak over there. How can I balance these things out? And I get it. There can be concerns with going into certain partnerships with certain people and so on. My sister's one of them. She wouldn't accept. She was an awesome fashion designer, terrible business owner. If she would have just partnered with somebody who knew the business and was passionate about what she did, she could have had a totally different path. But she wouldn't, right? So anyway.
So common, man.
It is. But yeah, I loved it. I loved all the conversations we had. I loved that we were so aligned with the impact we wanted to create. And I love that you entertained it and that you came on board. It life-changing, both of us.
Yeah. At the time I was, I'd been in business for so long. I was one of those crazy entrepreneurs that started at a really young age. And I've had companies and I knew I wanted to make an impact. My whole life I've wanted to make impact, change the world. Right. And I thought I was going to do it through a different path, if you will. And one of the things that you always know about business is you never get in partnerships. It's like the worst idea ever, and I would tell everybody, never get in a partnership, never get in a partnership. So when we started entertaining that conversation, at the time I was building a business that was designed around empowering people, bettering people through education, things along those lines. Because again, I wanted to make the world a better place and make money doing it, of course. But the real impetus was I wanted to leave a legacy and share the things that I've learned along my journey to help other people. Not from a place of ego, but from a place of like, hey, I've made every mistake, a lot of them 3-4 times. I'm a slow learner, but I make mistakes fast and often. And so let me show you. And so I remember going to talk to Darcy, who's a woman that's at this point worked with me for 13 years, talking to Erin, my wife, about the possibility, and probably a couple other people maybe even, about us working together. Now, I think it's interesting that for me, when I tell people this, is you and I had not met in person. And this is before COVID, guys. So like talking on video, it wasn't a new thing, but it wasn't
the norm, was it?
It was not the norm at all. But both of us worked from home. I had my businesses all mobile because earlier before that, I decided to let go of my retail or physical location so my wife and I could travel. And that's what we wanted to do and work remotely, which was a new thing back then. It wasn't new, but it was not common. It was very odd, to run into a digital nomad at that time. And then we decided to do so. And then I remember about 6 years ago, right? Bodhi, my son was just born. He was a baby. You came out to Bend, Oregon.
Yep.
We met for the first time. I distinctly remember that because I remember sitting at, I told the story the other night. I remember sitting at a restaurant for lunch, I think it was, the first time. Tim and I both share a passion for being very active, very much in the outdoors, which we haven't done here since you've come in. We keep working. Got to do that sometime. So Bend, Oregon is where I lived at the time. I moved from Santa Barbara with my family. I moved my family with my wife and now my son from Santa Barbara to Bend, Oregon. And I'm sitting across from Tim at this fusion restaurant. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, crap, okay, it's snowy out, right? It was winter. And so, but it wasn't enough snow to go snowboarding or skiing or anything like that. It was like that in-between time. I was like, crap, because I had friends that had visited just beforehand, and all they wanted to do was go to the breweries. Bend now has 30-some breweries, and I had in my head that you didn't drink at all. Look at your left hand now.
You are the average of the 5 people.
You spend the most time with. And I looked, and I was like, okay. So I remember looking at you distinctly and going, hey. I was like, dude, I know you don't drink, but the last few people that have come here, all they've wanted to do is do the breweries and things like that. I remember you looking at me smirk and go, oh, I enjoy a beer. And then we had a few pints and just really enjoyed. And we walked around and just talked and went to the river and did some personal development stuff. Just shared our interests like we had been doing over Zoom. And it felt like I've known you like my whole life.
Big time, yeah.
And then we went, and I'll shut up here in a little bit, but then we went and did what was essentially the second Alpha Reset. Now, you had done a lot of stuff like this before, parts, bits, and pieces, but it was the second Alpha Reset. You had done the Alpha Reset, which is our flagship experiential program, for those that don't know. You had done one. I remember you calling me up, so excited, like a kid on Christmas, about what you thought you put together at the time and what it was. And admittedly, I'd done so much around the world. I'm kind of like, oh, cool. Awesome, man. I was excited that you were excited. It was what it was. I was excited. You were excited. And then, so you decided to have the second one in Bend, Oregon, or the area. Half guys UK, half guys US. And then you and I co-coached it. You just kind of gave me the outline. I'm like, cool, we'll wing it. It was like jazz, as I like to say. And after the end of the event, I looked at you and said, I saw transformations in those men the fastest I've ever seen with anything, including ayahuasca, plant medicine, including therapies, whatever it was. It was the quickest transformation that stuck. And I assumed it would stick, and it did for these guys because I'm still in contact with a couple of them 6 years ago. And I was like, I want to be more part of this. I want to do more. And that, to me, the Alpha Reset was a third of what it is today, because every time we do one, we better it, right? We sit and meet. At the last Alpha Reset, we sat and go, okay, how can we make this better? How can we make it better? And so, yeah, first time we met, first event, it was the second Alpha Reset we did together. And then from then, we just kept on building that. And I got more and more involved. I started to let go of more companies, more things that I was doing. And about 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years. So it was 2021, January 2021. I reached out to you and said, hey man, I'm going to let go of all my businesses, all my business interests, and I'm going to dedicate 100% of my time into this. Are you ready? Little did you know.
My delusion came in. Yeah, that'd be great.
Two entrepreneurs used to controlling everything. Coming together.
Yeah, do you know, I remember back to those early. I was tired of doing things on my own. I didn't realize it. I mean, now, the great friendship that we have and the amazing experiences we get to have. If I look back when I was in business on my own, I realized how lonely it was.
Yeah. Lonely at the top, they say.
Yeah. And, like you, I was in the fitness industry in the beginning, the first kind of part of my business career. And I didn't want to do this on my own. I mean, I guess maybe I thought I did in the beginning, because I did in the beginning. But then as soon as we met and how closely connected we were with visions and how well we would work together and brainstorm things and collaborate, it just became increasingly obvious to me that I just wanted to run with you on this particular, on this. And I think that's an important distinction as well, because I think a lot of guys get so used to just lone wolfing it and doing it on their own and persevering and putting up with it as though it's the norm. I mean, it doesn't need to be that way. Granted, I think what served you and I so well over the years has been the ability to be honest with one another.
Yep.
So we never stray too far off track. We can have disagreements and such, but we'll always talk about them, come back, and so on. I think if you're in a partnership and you don't have that skill or ability, whatever it may be, then I can't imagine the partnership will last very long and on good terms, because it's like a marriage. Has that person changed from 7 years ago? Of course they have, right? They're going to evolve, they're going to change. So unless you're able to stay curious and connected and continue to keep your ego in check, because ego's a big part of it. At least I don't want to say it was for me. I could see how it could have been for me, this been my thing, or whatever story it is, you want to, it's just ridiculous, right? Because even as I say it out loud, that's just ridiculous. But yeah, that first meeting in Bend and that Alpha Reset at Mackenzie River was just incredible. those guys at the Alpha Reset. And I can remember you, one of the coaches that we had there with us, and myself, we tried to do a video afterwards, and speechless, right? Trying to explain what happened, and we just couldn't put it into words. And as it continues to evolve and get better and go deeper with its impact, that's the thing that has attracted so many of the men that were previously in the movement to join the team, as that, and I think our vision and the culture that we have and all that stuff. But the transformation, the reset, is one of the key things that has the men want to get involved in what we do, because they see and they experience the shift it can make in people. But yeah, I love it. Now we've got the ranch, the idea of obviously your family already come here, but when I've got kids, our families been here together, seeing those maple trees and as they grow over years to come, and it's just incredible. I love it. I can't put words on how much I appreciate it. I appreciate you and all that you do for me, the movement, the team, the MEM, and it still feels like it's just the beginning.
Oh, very much so for me. Well, thank you for the kind words, and I appreciate you too. I think one of the things that we are able to do is, we respect each other, so we grow. And yeah, it's interesting that a lot of people use our relationship as an example of how partnerships can work in business, right? And because, like you said, we practice exactly what we teach them to do in marriage, really, right? We clean it up, we validate, we use the hidden motives or whatever thing else, and we get to the core of it right away. And so our vision 6 years later, I can't believe it's been 6 years, it's just kind of hitting me. That's like, holy cow. Is now what we're looking at is really branching this off and offering this to more men, more families. So we're working on the men now. Eventually we're going to branch out to help out their families as well. And we have plans on how to do that. It's just simply a time thing. We have programs already developed. The education and program development portion, I think we've gotten down in spades, so to speak. Like that's down. It's more of a manpower thing, right? It's just, and it's finding the right people. One of the things that I really enjoy about what we do is, one, we don't consider it a business, we consider it a movement. And we have a nonprofit attached to it, which we don't talk about much. We'd like to do more with it, especially helping out young men, teens, kids that are out there that need a little bit of help. Because there's, right now, being a guy is being bashed in so many ways, and it's tough. And when you consider, boys, so I think it's as young, I always say 14, but it's really as young as 6 or 7. The stat, it's on the CDC website in the States. I don't know what it is in the UK, but all the way to like 50 or so is suicide's the number 2 cause of death. I think it might be number 1 in the UK.
Yeah, it is of a certain age range.
Yeah, and it's the number 1 cause of death in the United States for that age bracket is accidental death, which a lot are suicides. And because being a guy has a lot of privileges, a ton, and I wouldn't change it, and it's tough, and it's not talked about. You talk about stroke, you talk about diabetes, you talk about heart attacks, but they pale in comparison to the number of deaths that are by guys that find themselves in a dark place, in a dark corner, and they choose a permanent solution for a temporary problem. And I hate it. Unfortunately, we have an advisory team. So when someone calls up, they're interested in the Powerful Man, they talk to an advisor, and those guys and girls are saints, because they hear all of these horror stories, really. And sometimes they talk to guys who are on the brink of suicide that admit it. And it's really, really tough. And so, the company started off as more of a business consulting company, and we wanted to do more. We wanted to make a bigger impact on men and their families and the world. As they say, you want to change the world, you start with one man. And that's what we've done. And as you see the Powerful Man as a movement grow, what you can expect to see is less of Tim and I, less of you and I, and more of the men that we serve growing, learning, and giving back. You'll see more men just like you watching this or listening to this on this podcast, going through their own transformation, getting into their own power, stepping in and sharing their gifts, what they've learned from us and from the other coaches. We have an amazing coaching, deep bench, so to speak, with the coaches. I won't list all their names because coaching is going to evolve, of course. We'll add on more guys. Actually, I will. You got Mark. You got Arthur, you got Andy, you got Brad, you got Franco. You got so many people that are out there.
2 marks.
Yep. Well, there's 2 marks.
Yeah,
I just use Mark as a blanket statement now for the 2 marks.
Mr. Gosser steps in.
Mr. Gosser steps in, and so many other guys that are within the movement, from Chief to Gavin to all these guys that come in there. Mr.
Fetch.
Fletch. So many guys. And we're just real guys. I think that's the difference. Like, you and I joke around. We'll have an old-fashioned talking, and we handle our responsibilities too. And, I'll take care of my kids later on tonight. Like, you and I, it's your last night here in the States, and we're going to go out with my wife and celebrate. Got a babysitter for the kids and have a little celebration and some fun. And we do real things. And so I think that's what makes it different. A lot of these men's groups and organizations that are out there, I love that if they're helping guys, I'm all in. I'd like to help them. So if you guys are out there and you're trying to help men, we're all in helping you guys. Please do it from a place of authenticity.
It's got to come from authenticity, guys. I'm not.
I'm so tired of this. We're going to war. We're going to punch people in the face mentality, because that's not real. Like, I mean,
it's unnecessary as well. Like, it's just unnecessary. It doesn't always need to be someone to compete against and someone to outdo and someone to look better than. And, there's so many, you see so many people out there proclaiming to live a certain way and be certain people. That's just unrealistic, and unnecessary as well.
Well, it's not who they are. It's fake.
Exactly, yeah.
The car's rented or leased, and the house isn't real.
Trying to pretend like they're infallible. And it's like, come on. I mean, you're a human being at the end of the day. We all have issues, problems. We're all on a journey.
Yep.
And
it's being fake. So going back to how we met and then back to where the powerful man is going, I don't want to belittle anybody else that's trying to do good in the world. And some people aren't. Some people, it's just a business. That's just not the way you and I feel about it. I think you're going to see a lot more events opening up to more people. We're going to have an alumni event coming up. We're going to be expanding the nonprofits reach. We're going to be calling a forward guys in the Brotherhood, the Inner Circle, which are our mastermind groups, as well as guys that do one-on-one coaching with us and our other coaches, to be leaders in this world and leaders in the community, and really step into their light. I mean, these are friggin' amazing men who have great family systems, have been working hard not only to improve themselves, but also their families, their communities, their churches, synagogues, mosques, whatever it may be, the religious centers. Some are agnostic, atheist, Christian, Jews, Muslims, you name it. It's a broad spectrum. There's one thing that they all hold in common are very high family values. 2 is no judgment. They don't judge each other. So we'll have somebody who, you can have a born-again Christian and a Jew sitting having lunch together, laughing, having a good conversation, and talking about religion. They can talk about... The thing that always amazes me is they could talk about high-level finance, they can talk about religion, talk about politics, be on opposite sides of the fence, and then tell fart jokes. Like 14-year-old boys, and laugh and have a great time. We just had 40 men in Cuba, took over a whole hotel, took over the whole Havana. It was amazing. You have these powerful men doing these amazing events, giving back to the community at times, on the ocean, wherever we go, making an impact. And these guys all have the common thing. They have values, high values. There's not a jerk among them. All great men. That gets filtered out really fast. Our team's amazing at that. Plus, the guys don't put up with it. These are powerful men. But they're also, the power comes from inside of them, not
comes from their light.
Machismo attitude.
Yeah, it comes from their light shining brightly. And that light is a light of truth and love and strength and honor. And nothing to prove. They don't need to shout about who they are. They're very comfortable in who they are. And as a result, therefore, they're able to be there for other people as well. One of the guys at the reset that just left when I was taking him on the tours that we take the guys on, showing them around and letting them know what we're going to do. He was saying, hey, I'm really surprised. There was no assholes here. I thought there'd be at least one guy who's trying to compete and trying to outmuscle the rest of us, and there wasn't one. And he said it was really refreshing to be in an environment where I could just completely be me and with nothing to prove and just be completely accepted for who I am. and for all the guys to be the same as well.
Yeah, what people don't realize is we have accountants and we have men who are special forces officers, who are now running Fortune 500 companies.
Yep.
So we've got guys of all the spectrum. The things they have in common are values, right? They all like growth. They usually like the outdoors and adventure as well. And again, it's the values. One of the other guys at the Reset said, originally I was hesitant because I identify as a very strong Christian man. I thought this might actually go against my values. And you know what? It actually accentuates my relationship with Christ. And they can go be anywhere. We're non-denominational, but we're just for businessmen that have high values. Jerks aren't attracted to what we offer, which is salvation. It's not salvation. That's the wrong word I'm using, but it's a pathway where you do the work, you become yourself, right? And then you get the results. Jerks want just the results and manipulation, and that's just not what we're about.
Yeah, they want to look good, right? These guys are not concerned with looking good. They're more concerned with doing good.
Yes.
And being good. And these are the kind of guys, just the everyday guy, right? I mean, you could be walking by them in the street, old lady drops a handbag, they're going to be the first one there to help her pick it up.
Yep.
Or to help her cross the road. Yet, at the same time, they're running a 9-figure company or whatever it may be. They're not too busy to go and help this old lady out.
Yeah.
They're just solid guys.
They are. Yeah, so I think in the future, in the next year, you guys are going to see a lot more programs. Hopefully, we'll be able to produce more content. I mean, we want to give it all away free. We just know that when you pay attention. And that's the thing. We have over 700 podcast episodes where we talk about these methodologies. And we're going to try to produce more content to get this content out into the world. And again, the goal of the nonprofit is put the powerful man out of existence, essentially. And so there won't need to be a movement per se of men like us. It's just going to be common knowledge on how to be fulfilled, how to love yourself, how to enjoy life and make money, right? As one guy said, hey, look, capitalism good, greed bad, right? Being a man good, being an asshole bad. And I think that sums it up in a lot of ways of what the guys that we work with believe. They're businessmen. Right? We are businessmen. We're the crazy few that take the risks. We go out there. We don't mind putting in the work. We don't mind taking the sacrifice of working hard because we also know that it benefits other people, right? And it's not just about us. And so these are great men, and there's a group of them, a growing group. We have thousands of men right now in the movement that are active in the movement. And I think you're going to see that number double in the next couple of years.
Yeah, me too. And just going back to the point with the nonprofit, the mission is to put ourselves out of business, right? To have the nonprofit serve boys and teens, because if we get to the root of a lot of the issues that we deal with and we catch them early enough, that's why one of the programs that will be released is The Powerful Father.
Yep.
An event where the father can come with his son, and if the father then develops a son in a certain way again, hopefully we won't need the alpha reset to get to the deeper root of some of the issues that these men are dealing with, because the issues don't exist. And that means a lot. It really does. Like, I love the idea of putting ourselves out of business by getting to the root of the issue and fixing the root.
Yep. It's legacy, man. You're changing the world. That's what we're doing. So, man, thank you for trusting me. Cheers to you for all the hard work you put in. Hard to reach around these microphones, right? And things we do. I mean, you and I have put in just in this last 10 days, long hours and late nights. Although I'm talking about them now, it's being recorded, but people never see and never know, just to put guys through and make sure they get the end result that we want them to do. And cheers to our families for putting up with us and the travel and the long days of being gone, just so we can help other men return to their families and see the mission that we do to it. And cheers to you guys.
Yeah, and
appreciate it.
Mr. Colton as well.
Absolutely.
Sat over there, making sure all this runs smoothly enough. Traveled cross country with you. The men that have come out here and helped us with the barn, and we've mentioned them on previous episodes, but just thank you guys. It's like, it's not lost on Doug, it's not lost on me either. And
the whole team.
There's just so many people that are just part of this movement that just make it what it is. It's pretty wild to think of 6 years ago, just you and I.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about it, it was you and I and a couple other people with, coming in and helping out. And now we have almost, not quite, but almost 40 people involved in the movement on the back end side, coaching, operations, finance, client success, marketing, sales, whatever you want to call those things coming through. These are the people that require to attract and bring in men, because men often don't like to ask for directions, as I always say, and let them find something that authentically wants to help them. We have the activation method, which is a proven methodology that helps men. And then when you have men like Colton, who's sitting over here next to us right now, you can't see on camera, working tirelessly. Colton's exhausted. You can just tell when you look at him and talk to him. No offense to you, Colton. But he's been working his tail off, and he's been doing it not because he's paid to do it, but he's doing it because of the love of the men and the love of the movement, the love of the mission that we're on. And it's guys like Rich. So cheers to you, Rich, and cheers to the men that came to all the Alpha Resets, men in the movement. I guess sometimes I'm brought to tears when I think of you guys and your stories, what you're going through, the messages I get on my phone or in our private community. It's not lost on me at all. As you said, it means a lot. It means a lot to do this work, to help people, and we just get to get the word out more and help more people and help more men. And you guys are the leaders. You guys are the leaders of this world. And you're the ones that are going to make changes happen. You're going to make this world a better place, not only for you, for me, but for my children. So they grow up in a better world. So thank you. Cheers.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. But as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. You see, there are two types of men that listen to a podcast like this. Those that go on from one podcast or show to another, just hoping things are going to change and realizing that they're going to be in the same place month after month, year after year. You see, I was this guy, so I completely get it. You may just not be ready. But there's also a second man that listens to a show just like this. And this is a guy who takes massive action so they can shorten the learning curve, compress time, and get results to be the wolf. See, wolf is an acronym for wise, open, loving, and fierce. Now, ask yourself, which one am I? And just be honest with yourself there. And there's no judgment on my end, but if you're ready to move from deactivated deer mode, which is defend, excuse, explain, react, to activated wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce, then go over to thepowerfulman.com/grow and go there now. In fact, I'll make it super easy for you. I will even put the link right in the description here, so you can just click it and go over there now to learn more. Guys, in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go from deactivated to activated, because like I said, life is too short for average. And I'll see you on the next episode.